I'm Jim Collison. This is the Wellbeing at Work with CliftonStrengths podcast recorded on January 28th, 2022. In this Clifton Strengths podcast, we look at the strengths, insight, and action planning items from Appendix 1 in the Gallup book, Wellbeing at Work, one theme at a time, and today's theme is discipline. If you're listening live, love to have you join us in our chat room. There's just a link right above me there. Or if you have questions, you're listening to the podcast, and you have questions, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jacqueline Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning and Development Consultant and was the primary contributor in Appendix 1 in the Wellbeing at Work book. And Jacqueline, I think that's the best kept secret in the book. Welcome back to Called to Coach.
Thank you. We get to talk discipline today. I'm
we
so excited.
do. It's going to be great. Let's start with the definition. What is our definition of discipline?
People that lead with discipline enjoy routine and structure. Their world, as they see it, is best described by the order that they get to create.
How does that relate to you? And then how does that relate to others?
Yeah. If I think about how it relates to the person that leads with it, you probably find that the world around you tends to function a lot more smoothly when you can pre-plan and coordinate your day ahead of time. There's nothing like a good planner. We were talking about this a little bit in the pre-show, but those high in discipline tend to like planners. The predictability helps really keep their world efficient. And when obstacles do arise, with a little bit of prep time just to look over really the lay of the land and the territory, it can be back to business again. How it relates to others, I would say, is that people can count on this person to create efficiency, whether it's the family household, social plans, and even on teams, as they can really keep people on task and ensure that plans and responsibilities are pulled off smoothly.
I just have a lot of respect for discipline. It's one of those themes that just is it's a huge benefit to me, and I'm kind of drawn or attracted to it. I just like being around it. I'm not it, but I love being around it. As we think about discipline in the context of well-being, though, in this series, we're thinking through these from a well-being lens.
Yeah.
What does it look like thriving, and what does it look like struggling?
I think thriving, this person is in an environment where there's predictability or where they have leeway to build in structure for themselves. When there's a day-to-day routine, it's a lot easier for this individual to build in time to tackle really all 5 elements of well-being. They're able to structure that in to their day or into their week. Struggling, on the other hand, is in I would say, an ever-changing environment where it just seems like every day is slightly different than the last. That lack of structure creates difficulty in feeling level-headed. It can leave you feeling a little bit discombobulated, and it makes it more difficult to build in time for well-being. Just constantly shifting gears.
Yeah, we think of, and I use the word consistency with the small c as opposed to consistency as the theme, but I think oftentimes discipline loves that consistent look or that consistent feel or that consistent experience for both
Yes.
themselves and for others. And so those changes can create a little bit of that, the angst, the turmoil in that. I can't get this consistent. And so and of course it's been the last 2 years have been the most stable 2 years we've had in the globe. So
Ever.
those with discipline maybe struggling. And of course,
Absolutely.
those who do have discipline, I mean, and if you're feeling like your well-being is going well, share that with others, because there may be others struggling in this that aren't showing it. We in the back of the book in Appendix 1, there's some best practices, an example where we take this theme and talk about it in the context of one of our 5 pillars of well-being. We've got one for you now, Jacqueline. What'd you pick for us today?
I picked career well-being. So for the career piece, this person is good at building structure for themselves and the group. They will thrive when you put them in roles where they can create order out of chaos. Given the last 2 years, that felt like a pretty applicable one to pull from. And sometimes you don't think about that. Chaos can be disconcerting, but there's a thrill and enjoyment that can come from creating order out of it.
Yeah, I think for me, a Ranger Maximizer was this idea of creating order out of chaos. It kind of looked like or wanted to be like discipline. It's not, and so I'm not. But it always I love that. I think even as it plays, we'll talk a little bit about this here in a minute, is its place on a team, and I think it's super valuable in that
Hmm.
area. So we, of course, have the 4 other elements back in Appendix 1 if you wanna get some, especially for our coaches, there's some great, concepts in there that you can talk with those that you're coaching about that in the back of the book, Wellbeing, at Work. So, Jacqueline, with discipline, I think it's really important we understand how this can help and support others, and so how can we
Yeah.
do that?
If you are managing or leading a team, you can help bring stability and structure, which can help the team feel like they're on stable ground. So they can count on this person to stick to the agenda, to stop meetings on time, and to be well organized and structured with goals. If you are on a team, this person with high discipline can bring group efficiency. So before the work begins, they can start to divvy out tasks and deadlines and really just check in to see if everyone has what they need to carry out the task. And then otherwise, as the project proceeds, they can keep, folks on track during those check-in meetings. Last but not least, if this is you as an individual, I would say your natural aptitude for creating a schedule for yourself can benefit you when you really start to recognize that maybe an element of well-being has been off. um, you can start to think about, where can I find room in my day to day to focus for a few minutes on my financial well being or for an hour on my physical well being. But just taking a moment to reflect for yourself can help you check in and go, okay, out of all the 5 elements, would I give myself a 5 out of 5 on all of
Mm.
these? Or is there one that's missing? You have the power and that structure to be able to build it into your schedule.
Yeah, and maybe if you haven't, think about it through a structured framework to be like,
Hmm.
and many already, they've got there already, but that may be if you're struggling in those areas
Hmm.
with high discipline, add that to your already set up discipline routines,
Hmm.
whatever those might be. Maybe take from one of those and model it in that way. I think one of the things for us undisciplined folks, and there's a few in the chat room as we're talking about this, as we think about our managers, I think one of the things we can do is honor that. Is
Hmm.
in a way, you mentioned the word like, being on time or, actually doing the thing that we said we'd do, right? In that regard. There's some responsibility sprinkled in there, but those 2, discipline and responsibility, go together, 33, 34 for me. So, but I think there's an opportunity to honor those folks and make an attempt to be on time, right? To
Hmm.
make an attempt, and that's honoring that theme. That is saying, "I see it in you, and I know you need it." I think sometimes we take that approach like,
Yes.
"Ah, those disciplined people, like, why do they always why can't they just relax?" Well, because that's what makes them great,
Hmm.
honor that. And then I think on a team, like you were mentioning, I think we can identify that early in team settings and then just lean into that. I have made a
Yes.
living off of leaning into somebody else's discipline and just saying, "Help me," because 'cause they're willing to.
Hmm.
They love it, right?
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh, yeah,
It's like, ooh, planning, structure. Let's
I'll
do
help
it.
keep you accountable."
Yes.
That's always super cool. So I think there's some great ways as we think about, on it being on a team, leading with it in a team, and also from an individual standpoint. Jacqueline, in Appendix 2, we have
Mhm.
a framework to work through with each one of these elements. Again, a great framework and a great resource coaches for you to use. Walk us through that framework a little bit. Very, very simple.
All right. So ask yourself, looking ahead to my day, what gives me the most energy? Ask your team members, how do our work areas and schedules support our physical well being goals?
Mm,
And then take action, build in short physical well being breaks throughout the day to avoid long periods of sedentary time. So, given this person with discipline, pulling those just felt unique and like something that
yeah.
they could build in.
Yeah, again, appreciating those, like, I don't know if we had this conversation. I was talking with somebody today, and it's like, I feel like I've been sitting in this chair for 3 days straight. Like, I don't think I've moved.
Yes.
I think I slept here,
Your
right? I've been
Apple Watch is
eating
screaming
here.
at you.
Yeah,
Get
like,
up.
"Hey, are you alive?" Yeah. Yeah, have you died in that chair? And I kinda do need, I mean, this is one of those areas with where being affected by not being at work, I kinda miss that being able to lean into that discipline of others
Mhm.
to get it done, and so appreciate it in having that set up, and there's some things I think I can do to help replace that, but man, I really appreciate discipline on this. As we get ready to wrap
Mhm.
this, anything else, you'd kinda add?
Um, the only other piece I would add is when other folks are desiring flexibility or even time to just brainstorm and ideate, letting the individual with discipline know that's what the plan is will help them be in the moment. Sometimes there's this idea of rigidity because of that structure and predictability that those high in discipline like to have. But letting them know ahead of time can really just help them go, okay, I know what we're here for. Or let me block time knowing that I'm not going to be in control of that time. And then that also helps someone high in discipline. So just a couple of tips if you don't have it and you're working with those with it and you need a little bit more flexibility in the moment.
I think that's a great way to end it. With that, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available now in Gallup Access. Head out to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths. For coaching, master coaching, or if you want to become a Gallup certified strengths coach, you can always send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, and we get that information out to you, someone to help you work your way through that. If you want to join us for these sessions, gallup.eventbrite.com. That's all the live stuff that we do, and you can register for those. I'll send you a bunch of emails to remind you. And then you can find us anywhere on any social platform just by searching Clifton Strengths, all one word. And if you enjoyed this today, we'd love to have you share it. Thanks for listening. If you're listening live, stay around for some mid-show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.